everybody, it is your Mistress of Portals here for NaNoWriMo. That's right, if you don't know what that is, you're about to find out. It is National Novel Writing Month. That's right, 1 month to finish a 50,000 word novel. We're doing it start to finish in the stream every day from 10 a.m. to 12 noon my time. And yes, because it is a stream, you guys can participate. As you chat, you'll earn channel points. As you earn those channel points, you can spend them and redeem them to do things in the story. You can add a new character. You can drop in an action. You can, all kinds of things can be done within the realms of your channel points. So we're going to get started. I have no idea what story I'm working on right now. So we're going to have fun. I really don't know what the problem is that we're going to face. So, you know what? That is the problem, right? No idea what to write about. Or actually, I guess that's really not true. The truth is there are just so many things I could write about, and all of them seem equally valid to me, and that is what makes it hard to choose. This is our main character that's going to be dealing with this issue. Let's see. Glad you're all right, Specky. Oh, yeah? Well, let me see if I can fix that. I think there's just something really not quite right with the setup. And I'm not sure how to fix it. I'm not nearly as technically inclined as my... Oh, there we go. Let's see if we can't move that. Not nearly as technically inclined as my husband. He is the best at it, and I kind of suck. So hold on just a second, and let me see if I can get him out of bed. He's tired as heck, so this is really rude of me, but we'll hold on just a second. I'll be right back. The Google Docs thing, and it's just not showing up very well. The part where I am at.
What do you mean by not showing?
See, it's not really showing up well. That's what they're telling me. It doesn't, it's barely... Can we make it larger, I guess?
Make
The cam area.
your camera?
Yeah.
Yeah. Unlock the webcam to little... No, don't click on nothing. See that lock symbol?
Okay.
Now click. Now you can move your camera.
Okay. There we go. Thank you. I know I'm a pain in the ass. Alright. That's better. Haha. Hopefully. Any rate, there we go. So, here's our character. Why does it... You know what? I guess the question is, why does it even matter that we write? The mistake is that until you know why you're writing the story, you won't be clear about what to write. Why you're writing matters more, almost. And why am I writing? There we go. Yeah, I know. Ubi for the win. He makes all things better. let's change that up. So I've already made a decision. It's a girl. Let's see. She's... What do you think? Young, old, middle-aged? Okay. So what are the obstacles discovering why? Why am I writing? Don't think there's a point. You think it doesn't matter. And if all those things are true, this is the truth too. If you think it doesn't matter whether you write or not, you won't be committed to it. Because you won't have a point to it. So when you get into trouble, you'll stop writing. Let's see, what else? What are some other reasons why somebody might not know why they're writing? No. You just think you're writing for the fun of it, right? So you're not writing for a point, you're writing... Robbing nickels. There we go. That's what writers do. We rob nickels from people. Let's see. Let's see. Yeah, the point of writing is to better understand yourself and the world around you. It's how I think through a lot of things. A lot of questions that I have. I uncover the answers as I'm writing. It's kind of what I do. It matters even if the only person it matters to, the only person who ever reads it, is you. You can do whatever you want with the story. It's yours. You don't know who will want to read it, or if you do write it. The people who will want to read it, the same people who are facing the same problem you are. The start of your story. You can write for the fun of it. That's a valid reason. But it's harder to stay motivated. Alright, so once you know why, alright, so that's our main character. She had no idea what she's writing about because she doesn't know why she's writing. So these are the things. She's going to end up finishing her story because she figures out her why along the way. And once it becomes clear to her why she's writing, the rest becomes easier. It's alright. You know what? And that is enough for now. The rest of it can kind of be discovered as we go along. Ooh, this is a question. Why does she need to write it now? So that's kind of the thing. What challenge is she facing? Why would somebody need to write a manuscript in 30 days? Why would it matter? Just think about a real world problem that you would face. Maybe there's a ransom note attached, you know, like maybe she's been a writer and there's a demand for her to write a story or else kind of thing. Maybe her job is on the line. I guess this is kind of where we need to explore who she is and what she's up against. Yeah, so this is where we need to explore who's our villain now that we know our main character. Alright, so let's copy this part. There. Now let's say that she's got an ordinary problem, like right, she just needs to pay her mortgage. So maybe it's the bank she's up against. He's not actually our big bad villain. He's just the guy we're blaming for the problems. So let's give him a name, or him a role. He's the minion. He's the one we can point to. Maybe he's a judge. This is a contest. She's got to win the contest. Here, we'll sketch this out. Okay, so Robin, 30 days from now. Yeah, we'll go down here. Okay. Let's start. There's a writing contest that pays $100,000, enough to pay off the mortgage and save her family from being evicted from a life on the streets. Yeah. But she's only got 30 days. Well, let's say the contest actually ends. She's only got 20 days to get the story written and into the judges so that she has a shot at winning. "20 days, yeah. Written, edited, and into the judge's hands. Okay. So that's where Robin's at, right? She's got to get this, and we're already going to change that. Now she's only got 20 days to turn in the finished manuscript. And it's got to be the best writing of her life. It can't just be some crap she ripped off and turned in. So that's where she's at. Okay, that's the challenges she's up against. A minion. This is our banker buddy. Alright, so he'll have obstacles of his own. But there's Clarence Montgomery. He is the guy who owns the house, technically, because he owns the loan. She owns the mortgage. She's got to pay the mortgage, and she's only got 20 days to write the story of her life. There we go. Already we've got kind of something to go on. Cool. So we'll take this. And we'll start over. Oh, that's what happened. Okay. Alright, so here we got, I don't even know why I'm doing this. Robin stared at the screen in helpless frustration. Nothing came to mind. No words made themselves apparent. She looked over at the foreclosure notice taped to her computer screen. 30 days to pay, or she would lose her home. Unemployment had run out last month. Her efforts to find a job had failed. No one was hiring for someone with her skill set. All she had was her writing. The advertisement on the screen promised a $100,000 payout to the winner of the writing competition, but there were just 20 days left to submit a polished manuscript for the judges. Could she pull it off? It was her best shot, short of winning the lottery, and the only concrete hope she had of making everything work out. So that summarizes where Robin's at. Now, we need to complicate things just a little bit. Does Robin have kids? I think she does. I think she's a single parent. Yeah. Which is also why she lost her job. No daycare. Or maybe she's got a sick kid. That would make things even more interesting. What do you guys think? Any input from the peanut gallery here? Alright. Where are we? Right now we're on her computer. She has a modest 3-bedroom house. She has 2 boys. Alright, so let's take a look at how many words we've written so far. We have to get to 1,667 words every single day of this month. That's just 264. But it's not bad. It's not a bad start. Okay. $100,000 would be just enough to pay off the mortgage, the back taxes, and the car. It would be a fresh start for her and for the children. She looked over at the door to her son's room and shuddered. How could she tell her boys that they were going to be homeless? How could she tell them that she didn't take this chance to make things right? She shook her head. That was her reason. Her sons. They deserved a future. They deserved a chance at the best life she could give them. If she wrote for no one else, she would write for them. Even if she didn't win, she would know she'd given it everything she had, and that would at least be something. Alright, so now we have a reason to write. I think that's a good title for the chapter. Because that's our initial struggle, right? A reason to write. Doubt plagued her mind. What if her writing wasn't good enough? What if she wasted the 20 days only to lose? She shook her head again. No, she could not afford to lose. This story had to be the best thing she'd ever written. Even if she had nothing else to give her sons, she would give them this book. It would be their inheritance, something to cling to when all hope seemed lost. That was the story she would work on. A message of finding hope in the middle of a dark world. The world was dark, and her sons would walk plenty of days in darkness. But if she could give them a book that reminded them that there was always hope to be found, it would be worth it. Whether she won the contest or lost it, it was worth the work involved to give them that kind of story to carry them through. Where would such a story begin? What kind of character could she use to carry such a message? In the darkest place, in the deepest of night, a small boy would be born. Just when all hope seemed to fade. All right, let's see how far we've gotten. 462 words. 1,200 more to go. Let's see. But where would such a story begin? What kind of character could she use to carry such a message? In the darkest place, in the deepest of night, a small boy would be born just when all hope seemed to fade. She imagined the boy that would be the lead of her story. He was thin and pale and fragile like her youngest son, Brandon. He was an unlikely hero, if ever there was one, paralyzed from the waist down and bound to a wheelchair. He couldn't run or jump or play sports like the other boys could. All he had were books and video games to keep him company. She smiled at that thought. A slender bookworm would save the world. The wheelchair that most considered a liability would become a vehicle that carried him to greatness. The biggest negative in his small life turned suddenly into his greatest positive. Already, she was liking the way the story was taking shape. This would be as unique as Brandon and as powerful as Brandon's brother Todd. Let's see. So now we have the two boys. We have Brandon and Todd. Those are her sidekicks. Those are her reasons to write. We're at 624. We have just over 1,000 left to go. And we are just 30 minutes or 40 minutes into the stream, which is not bad considering. Pardon me for a moment. Going to need some medicine. Already she was liking the way the story was taking shape in her mind. She was excited to see where the story would take her. She was positive there would not be another story like it. This would be as unique as Brandon, and as powerful as Brandon's brother Todd. Just the thought of this story was filling her heart with hope that she hadn't felt since last New Year's Day, when the year had seemed so full of promises and opportunity. Then came the reality of the year and its crushing defeats. One after another, doors to her dreams had slammed violently in her face until she'd felt herself drop into a deep depression that made even the basics of life hard to do. If not for her boys, she might have given in to the voices that whispered death in her ear. She might have been persuaded to believe that they were better off without her, that death would be less painful than life. They had been the candle in her darkness, keeping her world lit and full of life, giving her a reason to go on when there seemed no other reason at all. She couldn't abandon them. She couldn't give up. They needed her. So even when she felt her most discouraged and the tears had poured like a waterfall onto her pillow, she'd been able to struggle her way back up to the surface, take another deep breath, and forge a path forward. Alright. So now we see what kind of woman she is. She has been tested. She has been struggling with depression herself. So hope is something she really needs. Alright. So we have 821 words that we have now added. Alright. put her fingers on the keyboard and began to write. The words poured effortlessly from her fingers now. Inspiration came as fragments of Brandon and Todd's childhood came to mind. The days before the accident that took her husband and left Brandon in a wheelchair bubbled to the surface. The happiness that had once been theirs, the security of the family, and the feeling of life being perfect. She'd never wanted things to change. But life hadn't asked her opinion and hadn't seemed to care. Looking back, she could see that the sheer perfection of what she'd had was enough to lead her to take it for granted. She thought somehow that it would always be that way. Jason, their father, had been her rock. She'd relied on him for everything. She'd never imagined she might have to take on the burden of caring for their family alone. He was always so dependable. The accident had changed all that. The horrifying suddenness of it had wrenched her life out of her hands and left her with nothing to cling to. She'd been forced to develop an independence she hadn't wanted and wasn't prepared for. Alright, so let's see where this is going. I now know a whole lot more about my character than I did when I started, for sure. I know that she's a widow, raising 2 boys alone. I don't know when the accident happened, but I know that it was an accident that left Brandon sick and in a wheelchair. This is where Todd's strength comes in. Alright. Todd had seemed to understand his mother's needs. He'd done his best to fill in for his father, taking on tasks too big for a 10-year-old's shoulders, cheerfully and without complaint. She hadn't asked him to do it. He'd simply seen the need and stepped in to pick up the pieces. He had become her rock in the stormy seas of her new world. She'd felt guilty for that. She felt as if she were robbing Todd of the innocence of childhood, but she'd needed the help too badly to turn him down or stop him from doing what came naturally to him. That was 5 years ago. Now her son's frame filled the doorways, and his back was strong from the work he did to help support the family. But it was taking from that child his youth. He was a grown man in a teenage boy's body. She found herself fighting off tears as she wrote, her mind returning back again to dwell on her failings as a parent. She hadn't been able to keep things together, and Todd was paying the price. He was a valiant warrior, fighting battles he had no business fighting, because she wasn't strong enough to do it for him. She admired Todd's strength, the quiet grace that seemed to ooze from him. He was always ready to do whatever she asked of him. He never seemed to hesitate or doubt. She suspected that was why the kids in his class looked to him as a leader. He just seemed to know where he was going and did not need anyone to tell him which way to head. Even she looked to him without intending to. Todd protected Brandon fiercely. Because of Todd, no one ever picked on Brandon or made fun of him. They knew better. Todd was a gentle boy, but he was still a warrior at heart, and the fastest way to get on his bad side was to mess with anyone under his protection. Alright. Quite the story we've got going on here. Ooh. And we're just 420 words away from being done with this chapter. Hoorah! Our first day is almost complete. 100 more words and we'll have hit our mark. Not bad for a day's work. All right. Text. Let's see. Let's make this chapter 2. Alright, so let's get started. The real story has now begun. Chapter 2, Born on the Darkest Day. On the darkest night, at the darkest hour, on the darkest day of the year, the banished queen gave birth to a tiny prince, as his older brother stood guard at the entrance to the dark, damp cave where she lay. The older brother wore armor 2 sizes too large for him, the legacy left him by his father, along with a sword that was almost as tall and wide as he was. Yet he wore it all, and carried the sword as if they were second nature to him. Gone was the palace. Gone were the many servants. Gone were the days of feasts and balls and visiting dignitaries in a court that never ceased in its activity. All of that had gone in a single day, the day the king fell on the battlefield, his horse and chariot destroyed along with his broken body. There had been no time to grieve and mourn, no time to even stop long enough to bury the dead. The enemy had been upon them too quickly for that. The queen and her oldest son found themselves fleeing the palace down hidden tunnels overrun with vines and slimes, as silently as they could without a single glance backward. They had spent days wandering the countryside, avoiding every sign of human life, afraid for their lives. The queen knew all too well what would become of her son if she were captured. The enemy would leave no heir to reclaim the throne and give hope to the people if it were in his power to do so. Her pregnant belly had made it difficult to travel. Her steps were necessarily slow and measured. She'd had to rest often. Ooh, things are getting good. And the nice thing is, with that, we started off with no idea where our story was going, but as you can see, we have already reached 1,866 words, and we only had to hit 1,667 to make it for today. So we've actually already hit our stream goal of 1,667 words. Sweet. So I'm going to take a little time because of that. I'm going to take a step backward and do a little more planning to better understand the story and where it's going. Alright. So let's take a look at chapter 2. What is our little, we've got a story within a story, essentially. So we've got the big story of Robin, Brandon, and Todd, and they're facing eviction because the mortgage isn't paid. Robin's got this chance to win the story competition. And the story that she's writing is the story of these little princes and how they become hope for the future. So Brandon is actually, because he's paralyzed and he knows he can't do anything physically, he just longs to make the people around him happy. He's always cutting antics and making jokes and doing funny things to try and make the people around him happy. He's taken on the responsibility for this, and it's not his responsibility to carry. solution for him is to focus on giving people opportunities to experience joy rather than on making them joyful. Because you can't make somebody be what they aren't. But you can give them an opportunity to be it. You can do things that set the stage, so to speak, for that to happen. And let them choose whether or not they want to feel joyful or not. Because not everybody does. Let's see, what other challenges, obstacles are there to making people happy, or to giving people joy? Let's see. Brandon's real challenge, and something that his mother is going to have to realize as she writes the story, is that his antics are all designed to make other people happy, but he doesn't have control over that, and she will use the story to kind of help him see that he's not in control of those things, and so that he doesn't need to absorb other people's unhappiness by taking responsibility for something that doesn't belong to him. But that's his challenge in his story. And then we have Todd, who's a secondary sidekick. Usually only have one, but in this case, Brandon and Todd are both kind of sidekicks because both are giving her reason. But Brandon is kind of more of a help to her. He's more, and yet, you know, he's both more mature for his age. You know, she's got a different struggle with him, is that he tends to take more responsibility than he should. Well, actually, I guess technically, if you look at it, both boys are taking on responsibility for things that don't belong to them. It's what we tend to do. So there's Todd Nichols. How can I protect my family? Fail to grow. Oh, yeah. Todd has taken responsibility for the pain and suffering of the people around him. I bet he feels guilty somehow for his father's death, like he was responsible for it. Yeah. Okay. That's kind of cool, the way the story's unfolding. Yeah, he feels responsible for other people's pain and suffering, like he did it or caused it. Which, given that he was probably about 5 years old when his father died, or no, not 5, but 9, maybe 10, when his father died, that makes a lot of sense. Kids that young tend to take responsibility for things that have nothing to do with them. They're still involved in magical thinking, and so they feel like their behavior and actions are directly responsible for the things that happen around them. Which, in a sense, we all do have some responsibility for what happens. So won't let me protect them. And it's true that not everyone wants to be rid of their pain. There's a reason Jesus went around and asked before he just healed people. Todd. Todd is actually overprotective of Brandon, over eager to do things for him. And part of this story, we will see Brandon kind of need to learn to step out on his own, and for Todd to let go of trying to keep Brandon from every harm that comes his way. I don't know exactly how we're going to weave that into this story, but that's how I see it going. Alright. Maybe that's something that Mom even comes to understand as she begins to write, is to get a clearer picture of where the problems are in the family and how to begin to fix them, and how to give her two sons the things that they need. And we have the herald of the story, actually, which is her husband, the deceased husband. It's actually the herald because it's his death that has kicked off all of this stuff that will eventually accumulate into her becoming a writer who can support them. Let's see, and what's her husband's name? Jason. Okay. Yeah. That's really all Jason wanted, was to help them become their best selves, and actually in his death, that's exactly what's going to happen. He won't be there to support them, but they'll discover the things that they have. Because what was happening was that Jason had everything in hand, or at least it seemed that way. And so there was no need for Robin to work, there was no need for the boys to do anything, to grow up. He would have provided everything, and none of the other three would have ever achieved what they were meant to achieve with him in the picture. Yep. So he doesn't really have a whole huge part to play right now, as far as I can see. And yeah, so we have accomplished what we wanted to accomplish for the purpose of this stream. We have gotten our initial story started. Now we're just kind of dinking around with the plot a little bit, trying to figure out where we're going to take it next. I guess we've got about 36 minutes into the hour. Oh, this is something we'll do. I will share out a link in my Discord, so if you do join my Discord, if you want to read over what's been written, you can always catch up. So, we may not leave this story here. This story may take off and go in its own direction. I don't know. But I'm kind of liking the way it's shaping up so far. Alright. Well, I'm going to call the stream. I have done my NaNoWriMo writing for the day. And leave it. And we will pick it back up tomorrow from 10 to 2. Or 10 to noon. Haha! 10 to 2. I'm a bold, brave woman. No, from 10 to 12 tomorrow morning, just like we did today, we will pick the story back up and see where it goes. Thank you guys for joining me. It's been great having you with me. I appreciate the conversations. Remember, if you do chat and you earn some chat points, you can always spend it to introduce a new character, change a scene or a setting, make an event happen, all kinds of ways to shake the story up. It's up to you. I want to help create this together. I'd like you to participate. Definitely welcome to. And let's see where the story goes. 29 days to go now. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.